right, everybody's here.
It looks like we're all here. All right, well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We'll start first with roll call for our trustee group. I'll start in the order of the photos here. Shar Douglas.
Here.
Peter Provenzano.
Here.
Alex Pike.
Here.
And I am also here. All right. Do we have anyone that is in that's indicated they'd like to be part of public comment at all?
Let me double check the waiting room. I don't see any attendees in the waiting room.
Okay. Make sure. Alrighty. 1 second, I'm having some technical difficulties. All right, let's look at our minutes for our next meeting, our last meeting, excuse me, from December 9. Are there any changes, clarifications, additions to those minutes? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Alrighty. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? All right, we'll move forward for approval. Those in favor say aye through a roll call vote. Shar Douglas.
Aye.
Peter Provenzano.
Aye.
Alex Fike.
Aye.
And you can mark me as an aye as well. All right, next up is our financials. Julie, if you want to screenshot those or.
Yeah. Do that.
Like, are there any changes to note at all?
Yeah, so let me get back to the screen sharing. Not sure if I can just swap. Okay, can you all see the shared screen?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, great. So let's see, the item I'd like to show you is on page 2, which is the 701 account. We pulled in 2 pass-through donations that I'll talk about a little bit later in the payables section, but they're at the bottom of this list, the $2,500 and then the $500. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then further, there is an additional $100 that I received, let's see, yesterday. Sorry, on Monday when I went into the office, it was there on my desk. So I deposited it in the same account, but it is not showing up on this document that I sent to you last week. So on the payables, I am going to ask if we can add that also, but we'll do that next. I wonder if you have any questions?
Nope. All right, we will file those.
Okay.
Next, we will review today's agenda and see if there are any updates from our preliminary version that we crafted at last time's meeting. Any new topics to add? Everything like it's in order with the business that we need to discuss today?
Yes, I'd like to add the pass-through $100 in the payables section, so we can take care of that in the minutes.
Okay.
And so, Shar, it is a pass-through $100 from Sandy and Mel Johnson to the Royal Oak Public Library. And then just as a side note, I talked with the finance department, and they said when we're doing these pass-through payables, having each one named in our minutes will be sufficient for them to transfer the money from the ROCF account to the appropriate 295 city entity account.
So that will be our item. Is that a new business 15?
I don't think so. That's just a note to you when you're writing your minutes. Does that make sense?
Well, but, so we're approving the agenda. So you're saying we need to add an agenda item.
Yep.
Under
So-
item 7.
Under payables, yeah, just an additional payables that,
Okay, got it.
Yep. But then the side note was just when you write your minutes, if we could spell those each out from the agenda onto the minutes, that is enough for the finance department to go ahead and move that money.
The now the 3 pass-throughs.
Correct. And anything in the future that we have like that, we can just name it under the payables.
Okay,
Okay. And then once the payables are approved, that is sufficient for them.
okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's not really agenda. All right, I get it. Carry on. Nothing to see here.
Okay. All right. If there's no other additions, I'll ask for approval of the agenda.
I can make a motion.
Excellent. Is there a
Approve.
second? Second, anyone? Bueller?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right. Those in favor say aye via roll call. Start with Shar Douglas,
Yes.
Peter Provenzano,
Yes.
Alex Fike.
Yes.
I'm also a yes. All right. Our agenda is adopted. Next up is a noted segment on our agenda to review payables and an approval request that I assume at the end of this will require a motion for us to make these. So Julie, if you want to go through these 3 items.
Sure. So these are the 3 items I mentioned during the financials portion. There was $500 from the Stephen Aaron Van Beek Family Giving Fund that is meant for the Royal Oak Public Library. And then a company out of Birmingham, Home Instead, decided to donate $2,500 to the senior center. And then the third is that $100 from Sandy and Mel Johnson, also going to the public library.
Okay, great. All good info. Any questions on any of these gifts at all? Their stated intent that we appreciate you having it on the agenda as well. So it will make it easy for us to, if there's no discussion then, to entertain a motion to approve these 3 receipts and a subsequent pass through to their intended organizations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I
Is there
can
a
second.
second? All right. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor say aye through a roll call vote. I'll start with Shar Douglas.
Yes.
Peter Provenzano.
Yes.
Alex Fike.
Yes.
I'm McGannon is a yes too. All right. Thank you, Julie.
Okay, no problem.
We'll pop down to your director's report as topic 8 on today's agenda.
Okay, so I just switched the document. Does that show up now?
It does.
It does. Okay. All right. So I don't have to go out every time and reshare. Okay. So look at that cheery picture.
That's a great
is
Santa
Santa,
too.
yeah.
Quite a costume.
Yeah, Santa looks cheery too.
Impressive.
From Home Instead. So we made a personal pickup of the check and decided to use it as a photo op also. So there's Shar, of course, and then the owner of the Home Instead and Paige from the senior center.
You mean Santa?
Santa. Oops, yes, Santa.
For any children who may be watching this.
Okay, so let's see, a couple other things. The second item on the list, I've been
Actually-
working with.
Julie, Home Instead, what is their business?
It's work to keep seniors in their own homes. So they do different services. I think there's some healthcare services, cleaning services. It is help for people who might not be able to do all of the tasks that home ownership would require.
Gotcha. It's a for-profit company in Birmingham that's made this contribution to our senior center.
Yes, so it's a national company as far as I can tell, and franchisees open in various locations.
Great.
So this man owns the Birmingham location.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, so the second thing on the report is about our pending situation with the legal and financial setup. I've been working with the city manager and the finance director and our interim attorney to go through the opinions from Kitsch and Riemann, and we are getting very close to being done with this issue. The MOU has been edited by the finance department and sent on to the interim attorney, and she has added her edits. And so I am now in a position to come up with the final draft and then work with Paul to figure out what the next step is, if that is something that needs to be taken to the commission for approval. I think the answer is yes. And then once that's done, the mayor would sign, and then Tom, you as the chair would sign also, and that would be our MOU with the city.
Okay.
Okay. And, you know, again, we are waiting on the MOU because we weren't clear on what was going to happen with the GL numbers relative to how our accounting would be set up. So just in general, again, because of the two opinions, one from the Kitsch Law Firm and one from Riemann CPA, we will be, the Royal Oak Civic Foundation will sit as a 701 custodial fund. Okay, and the interim attorney is also working on a memorandum to give her opinion about the custodial fund account and my time as somewhat of a donation, but not a donation in the strictest sense, if that makes sense to you all.
Mhm.
So I'm waiting to get that memorandum, and we can share that at the next meeting.
Will we qualify that as an in-kind donation from the city of Royal Oak to the Royal Oak Civic Foundation with an estimated dollar amount by the city, correct? Is that our thought?
I'm not sure how they want to apply it. It gets a little bit complicated because of the home rule and being a separate 501c3, but our sole member is the city. You know, again, it's this kind of placement where we are straddling two situations, right?
Sure. Okay.
So once we get her opinion about that, I think it'll be easier to, you know, decide what our next step will be.
Okay, great.
But there is movement, and it's all very positive, and so that's a good sign, a good way to get 2020 going. Okay, so let's see, the next thing on the list is the Kroger rewards. I mentioned that last month. So we are now set up as a potential receiving entity if people sign up their Kroger rewards. The next important item was the Royal Oak Today magazine had no problem with us pushing off our half-page article until the second quarter. So that is the plan. And then the next bigger item is that we've done a substantial amount of work on the event fundraiser video. And I think that is on, yeah, that's on our agenda. So I'll go into detail a little bit more when we get to it on the agenda item, as an agenda item. Any questions about the director's report or anything else? Okay, thank you.
I wonder, has everyone been on, visited our website page at all?
Not
I had
I would encourage you to do it versus us doing it in this meeting and pulling it up, just to take a quick look at it. I have not, so I just made me think I should. So if you have not, please join me in checking it out before our next meeting for any thoughts. And Julie, thank you for keeping updated.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all. One of the things that I will be doing relative to the website is getting all of our policies listed. Today, as one of the items, or the agenda items, we'll be talking about the third-party fundraising policy. I think that is the last one we're going to work on for some period of time, and then I'll put all of those up also.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Julie, and
Yep.
thank you for your continued work and trying to get ahead of issues as well too. We appreciate your diligence.
Yes, thank you.
Next, we'll go to Mark for the city attorney's report. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
I think you're muted. And you're still muted.
Well,
There
that's
we go.
because I made a number of mistakes when I said hi, so.
It's good. It's good to have a start fresh. Sometimes mute works
Yeah,
to our advantage.
fresh. No, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members. You have in front of you the changes that you wanted made, which were basically to include the statutory enabling laws attached to the definition, attached to the identification of the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, the city of Royal Oak. That included that. You also wanted to provide a $500 direct cash stipend to the student to design the brand, the logo. That's been included at sentence 6. And if you approve this, then I'll put in his name and his address. Let me see if there's anything else that you wanted. Oh, and the modification of the credit for the work that the designer's name will receive credit for up to a year from the Royal Oak Civic Foundation.
Great. And I think
Questions?
we had approved this with changes at our last meeting. Just a parliamentary question, please. Do we need to re-motion then to approve this? Or does our last motion stand as the approval?
Your last motion stands as it is unless you want to make more changes.
Any comments from the group as to any changes? And Mark, thank you for sending this before the meeting too, so we had the chance to look at it. We appreciate that.
No changes as much as just who will reach out. Julie, will you reach out to Ethan? Does he know that these are our wishes? I mean, I just want to make sure that we contact him before we just send it to him.
Yeah. So that was one thing on the director's report. I did contact him and let him know that we're working on an agreement and that the trustees have decided to send some kind of stipend to him. And he said, great, he'll sign whatever. He'd be happy to either come to Royal Oak and pick it up, or we can send it to him. So he's aware that it is happening.
Okay. Thank you I must have missed that. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Just a question for you, Julie. I think I have all the artwork that Ethan provided. If you have a PDF file where there might be more of the final artwork, send that to me and I'll include that as an attachment.
Okay.
Do we have a further step then? Do we need to, I'm trying to think with logos, is it service mark registration or trademarking?
Trademark. The paper's already being filled out to file. We're going to follow the same process that we did with the Royal Oak. I don't know what to call it, the Powerball, the orange Powerball.
Okay.
And then send that off to the trademark office. And it's not going to trademark the colors. The colors are much more difficult to trademark, especially because they're Pantone colors. So it'll be the form and the style that essentially will be trademarked.
Okay. And Julie, do we have a recording in our, I'm trying to think what it would be called? It certainly wouldn't be minutes, but do we have some sort of operational guide where we have recorded the Pantone colors? We have the original, the native files in case we need to make any adjustments after, years down the road.
Yeah, I've been pulling those as they're sent to me by Peter Shade at OCC and Ethan. I've been working on that, over the past 2 board meetings also, because I know that there were some pieces that each person didn't have. So in talking to both of them, I think I'm getting close to having all of the materials that were made with this particular logo in the special colors, black and white, and then gray and white, I think.
Okay, great.
So I'm trying to get a collection of everything so that we have those in multiple formats also. The very high resolution, and then easy to use JPEGs also, and in between.
Great. I may append into our parking lot later in today's discussion that we add a future discussion on logo use, style guide development. I think we'd had a brief conversation about this before, but we definitely want to make sure we've outlined some guidelines on how it's used when we announce grants as well, that we are including any type of naming and those types of things too. Just anything that provides visibility of our name and logo.
Okay. And just as a side note, will that be something we should make sure is in the third-party fundraising policy also if they're going to use our? Okay, so let's.
We'll connect it there for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to write that down right now so we don't forget for number 12. Okay. Okay, so I have a couple questions. One, Mark, did the interim attorney have a look at this yet, or does she still need to
On
give an approval? I'm not sure, what the policy is in your office.
she will review it when it goes to the city commission for approval.
Okay. All right. And then the second thing is when I read number 5, it says, his name, Ethan, surrenders any claim or compensation to his intellectual property. And then I thought, but wait a minute, we're giving him some compensation. And then I noticed in number 6, it's where you have the stipend. Do those two contradict each other? Or is that compensation in number 5 something different than we're actually saying we're giving him in number 6? So just a clarification would be great.
Probably easier just to take the number 5, take the word compensation out, and then put in a word that says in consideration of. So
Okay.
they surrenders any claim to his intellectual property, the logo and the graphics works for the exclusive use of the City of Royal Oak Civic Foundation, the City of Royal Oak, in consideration of, comma, no and, that the City of Royal Oak Civic Foundation will provide Ethan with a stipend of $500.
Good clarification.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you for doing that.
No,
Would
not a
would you
problem.
say that again, please?
Sure. This is, I propose to modify paragraph 5. Ethan, or name, surrenders any claim to his intellectual property in the logo and graphics work for the exclusive use of the city, for the Royal Oak Civic Foundation and the City of Royal Oak, comma, in consideration of, and then comma, and then to the next paragraph, in consideration of a stipend of $500 from the Royal Oak Civic Foundation. Are you trying to write that down?
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
And then my last comment is about, is the $500 a stipend? Does it matter what we call that? I mean, is it a payment to him?
No, it doesn't matter what we call it. I mean, it still has tax implications, no matter if it's a stipend, salary, gift, or a scholarship.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Mm.
All right, so with those changes, it sounds like we will need to have a motion to approve those changes.
I would be, yeah, I'd recommend that. Yeah.
Okay. Is there such out there in the world? Anyone?
So moved.
Excellent. Second?
I second.
Great. I'm sure there's no discussion as we've discussed here, so we'll move forward to the vote by roll call. Shar, do you approve the adjustments to this contract with Ethan?
Yes.
Peter?
I do.
Alex?
I do.
And I do as well. All right, Mark, thank you for your help with that. And
I would tend to start applying for the trademark application, and I'll have either an update or the finished application for you at the next meeting.
okay, great. And then Julie, if you wouldn't mind sending this finalized version to me when Mark is finished making the updates to it, I will print it off, sign it, and bring it in to the Royal Oak City office for it to go to Ethan after that, and the other signatures that would be needed as well.
Okay,
You can hold off on that. Our typical habit here in City Hall is to have the other side, Ethan, sign it first.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm sorry, I was writing. Did we take out stipend and just call it payment or something else? I missed that.
No, we did take out the word stipend just for consideration of $500.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So Julie, let me know when it's all signed, sealed, delivered on the other folks' side. Then I can pop in to sign it.
Yeah, that way we don't get into negotiate. We don't get into a position where you've signed it, the commission signed it, and then the other party wants to negotiate something even more. So in that case, we started off the process off with them. They finalize it, and then we bring it back to the city commission for their review. And this is ROCF.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, you know what, Mark? I don't see a line for Ethan to sign on.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
the
is
very
that-
bottom. Says
Oh,
name.
very bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then do we need to have the commission approve this before Ethan signs it?
No, Ethan can sign it, and then it goes to both the ROCF and the commission for approval.
Okay, great.
Okay. And are you going to write the commission
Cover letter?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Great.
All right. Mark, anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. We'll move forward into unfinished business. Item number 10 on today's agenda is the Kitch Riemann status of what should we be when we grow up? Which type of accounting function?
Okay.
Go
So just a quick overview. I alluded to it in some of the earlier agenda items that we are progressing nicely toward the 701 as the final setup. Kitch and Riemann have gave their opinions that you saw last month. Those have been reviewed by the finance department, and the interim city attorney is working on it right now. Her basic feeling is that the 701 is no problem, and that my using some of my staff time to act as the executive director is also not a problem. So again, what I'll bring to you next month relative to this item is the interim city attorney's legal memorandum about those things. And then from there, I think it's a question to ask the finance department to move our 295 funds into the 701, and then that's where we'll sit.
Any questions or comments?
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Remind me again what the 701 category, how it's categorized.
It's called custodial fund now. Yep. So thank you all very much for the patience while we, worked through this interesting and complicated setup. Once again, 2021, here we go.
Yay. Alrighty. If there's other questions, we'll move forward to item number 11, the video status report.
Okay, so the video status report, we have made great progress since our last board meeting. You all were sent the latest very shortened, succinct version. And I heard from everyone, I think, except Alex, about feedback. And we sent a couple additional edits to Richard. And I know that he has a very busy week this week with every night is boards and commissions. So he said as soon as he can get to those couple edits, he would do it. And I think that's the end of our editing. So at that point, we'll need to start thinking about launch date and what the launch is going to look like. So I guess first, Alex, do you have any pieces of feedback you want to give before Richard does his final edit?
No, what I saw was captured what I was gonna give recommendations for. So
Okay.
I thought it looked great. I was excited.
All right, great. Yeah, after the shorter one, the latest one he sent came through, I felt so much better about the whole setup. So, Shar, do you have anything to add about the video and where we are with the editing at this point?
No, I have, folks, I have just channeled my comments through Julie. I didn't hit reply all, figuring that, we should have one point of contact between us and Richard. So all of my issues have been captured.
All right, and I wonder, are we in a position to talk about the launch today? Some basic ideas? Sure.
Talking to me?
Or, yeah.
Unexpected as I am to public speaking, I have not looked at my timetable since we last discussed this.
Okay.
But perhaps I can generalize. We still need the, Judy Davids came up with a really nifty JPEG logo for the GoFundMe campaign. And I need to just refine the copy on that, make it a little more urgent, a little more give now-ish.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I don't have my notes on this. I had put together a promotional timetable, as to timing of a news release, social media announcements, but I am not prepared to discuss it at this time.
Okay.
All right, we'll come back to it. There's nothing else on the video. Let's move forward into new business and discuss the third-party fundraising policy. This is a document that that I think Alex provided based on some United Way pieces. It has some components of things that we that from my background and as well. And I think we've made it both a policy and a guide on how to engage us in a third-party event. And it's it's an opportunity, I think, for us to really clarify what we do, what we won't do. This is, it's something that in my career, I have really struggled with, as lots of folks come forward with great ideas. And unfortunately, a lot of them don't make a lot of money, or a lot of them are about promotion of a business and less about the fundraising of the entity. So the experience that I've gained from going through this and experiencing it and creating policy around it to put up some really strong guardrails are, does any application start with a point of who's the main beneficiary? If it's us, or then we would have the conversation. If by the nature of the promotion, it is the third party group that's proposing it, we can use that as a litmus test to decline. So you've had the chance to review it. Any thoughts? Sure.
Yeah, I had just a couple notes going through it. I'm not sure how to identify the places to make it so people can understand, but I'll give it a try. So we've got a heading ROCF as beneficiary of fundraising efforts. This isn't allowed if the organization is a legacy roots organization. I would just put an asterisk there and add a footnote somewhere in the document to identify those organizations. Under tax deductibility, I would remove silent auction and just make it events such as an auction may provide a receipt. I would in number 5, and this may be obvious, but in the credit, the attribution that people must give, it should say, quote, proceeds to benefit the Royal Oak Civic Foundation. I know we abbreviated here just for brevity's sake, but I need to be clear that that will be spelled out in those agreements. Do we want a post-event financial statement? I know we asked them for a budget, but if we are, and this may be moot if we don't establish a percentage that we want to get back from these events. But if we do establish a percentage, do we want a post-event financial statement? So those would be my issues.
Okay, hey Shar, can you tell me where your number 2 issue was?
Under tax deductibility,
Yep.
the paragraph, the second sentence, it reads events such as a silent auction. I would say events such as an auction.
Okay. Okay. I'm tracking these as changes so we can change them back if there's other discussion. Okay, and then how about the last one? Where do you think that what was the name of the document you wanted to see?
Oh, post-event financial statement.
The financial statement, okay. Where do you think that belongs?
I don't know. And I say it may be moot if the what's highlighted in yellow is that we have a requirement that they give a certain percentage. Others may want to discuss whether or not we want to stipulate that. If we do stipulate that, then I would add it to like 13.
Mm-hmm. I like your idea of adding the percentage. We have a minimum dollar amount is what we use. That we will do a third party event that will qualify if it will raise a minimum of $25,000. If it won't, and then we put that as a steep threshold so that we're kind of out of the third party business, but we will accept a check at the end type thing. So they can do whatever they want. They can't use our name though. They say we're putting on a fundraiser for this discipline, not this entity, and then they can send us a check at the end. Is how we've organized that.
Tom, is that always the case that they only give for a discipline, never for the Beaumont Hospital, whatever your formal name is?
You know, they always want to give to a specific program. And the other workaround we have is we're Children's Miracle Network Hospital, and through our CMN program, we do accept donations, and we're a little we're more wide-reaching in using that. But we also have every group go through what their financials first, so they can understand will you make money. And here's kind of an interesting stat on how this document has worked for us in the past. It has cut down about 80% of the requests that we get. And mainly it's not that people don't want to fill out the paperwork, all of that helps. It's that they realize they're going to lose money. And most folks do not understand that from the outset. It's one of those, let's build the barn and have a show, and it's a great idea. And then when you put pencil to paper and start to do the math, and the time frame as well, like how long it will take you to create an event, the different promotional elements. It's really, we've used this as an instruction for, are you sure you want to do this? It's the most expensive way to raise money. Are you sure you want to take this track?
Very sensible.
One thing that I, when we're constructing this, I was thinking about is those legacy organizations as well. Recognizing that the payables that we just received are, well, received and are passing through, so that they are payables, probably does have a lower threshold. So that's the only thing that I'm thinking about. So like if the animal shelter wants to do some random thing, you know what I mean? Like I think we've discussed part of our role is helping them with fundraising and things like that. So I think like the budget is helpful in helping them or a friend of the animal shelter or something like that and figure out that component. So that's the only reason I'm probably against a specific, especially a high dollar threshold, but I do like the idea of a percentage or at minimum what you suggested, Shar, the post event financial statement.
Well, so and let's use, I mean, if the Nature Society holds its own fundraiser without using our name, they can, actually, I mean, they can funnel the money through us and we don't care, right? It's only, I think, if somebody's using our name that we care, right?
Yes, I think that we would allow them to use our name, and for member organizations, we wouldn't consider them to be doing third-party fundraising. I think we'd look at them as doing, first or second party is how we'd qualify it. See, things that we are involved in. We might actually want to ask them, hey, how can we help? This is some expertise we have. So if you're putting on your gala event, include us as a planning partner, and we can help you to do it a little bit more efficiently if you need. This would be for the Joe Q Publics. Hey, we want to go to a restaurant and ask them to do a percentage of their sales, and we'll get, I think, a lot of those types of things, which are great engagement of the community, and it does help promote businesses too. But I wonder if we should put on there that at least a minimum of 50% of the proceeds for any type of event has to come to us, so that we are at least a partner in it and not getting a small percentage for people using our name and our promotional vehicles.
So when you say proceeds, do you mean gross or net?
Typically net proceeds. So let's look at the language on here under 13. I think it said gross.
Yeah.
I think we should change that to net proceeds.
Well, why wouldn't we get 100% of the net proceeds if it's a fundraiser for us?
That's true. Yeah, you're right. So what we've done here is actually, it should go back to gross because, and now I see why we had that. Gross is, of course, the gross receipts minus expenses for the net proceeds. Special event fundraising typically is 60 to 70 cents to raise $1. So once they take their expenses out of it, if we can actually help them get to a higher percentage, make that 50%, because 30 cents on the dollar is revenue is means they're going to be spending most of their expenses on the event to produce it. So 50% of gross revenue makes sense. It actually will help them put together a more impactful event
And keep their costs down.
Yep.
So, Tom, can you help me understand this section here that says ROCF as a beneficiary of fundraising efforts if the fundraising group is a legacy roots organization? If it's the animal shelter.
So do we want to not look at our past and instead define this as current City of Royal Oak organizations instead? Because this then, leads you back to look up who, were we one of those versus identifying either the groups that we are already affiliated with here. I don't think we should look back at roots the more I think about it.
Yeah, because those roots bodies are aligned with the mission of this Royal Oak Civic Foundation. Right?
So what do we call them instead? Are they civic organizations? Are they like, what is the Nature Society and the Animal Shelter and the Historical Commission? How do they qualify? Let's use that language here.
Yeah, we've been calling them city entities. We've been calling them legacy groups. I think you make a really good point that we should probably have a term that we use and continue to use it. You know, pick one. And
should we call them city affiliates?
Yeah. I was thinking like city affiliates or city functions, city.
Well, the animal shelter is part of the city.
Is it a department?
It's run under the police department, yes.
So the organization is a City of Royal Oak affiliate, comma, department. Would that qualify then for all the other ones that aren't as, like what is the Historical Commission? Is that a department as well too?
no.
Historical Commission is a group, well, no, it's an independent group of, if this is the right one I'm thinking of, it's an independent group of people from the various different historical group societies and organizations established by ordinance. So that in order to do, let's say, to designate a building as an historic building, they have to go through the Historic Commission, the Historic District Study Commission, to get all that done. But
actually, I'm sorry, Mark, I don't think that's correct. The Historic Designation Advisory Board and the Historic District Commission are two legally established bodies, but the Historical Commission basically is just the Star House.
Yes, I mean, that's what I'm getting at, is that in the past, they had representatives from everybody who was interested in the historical groups. Now they're working on the Star House. The other two that you mentioned were established by ordinance and are necessary to have a building designated. Their work is important to have a building designated as an historical building. The Study Commission proposes, and then the Historical Commission then becomes like the planning department if there are any changes proposed.
So, you know, on our minutes document, we have a definition at the top, and it says legacy groups definition. And again, I'll just read out the list so we have this in our minds. The Animal Shelter, Library, Nature Society, Parks and Rec, Seniors, Commission for the Arts, Historical Commission, and Public Safety. So those really run the gamut. I mean, a couple are departments, a couple are commissions. One is a separate entity. You know, the Nature Society is also a custodial account. So do we think that the term legacy groups is reasonable, or should it be, you know, tied in like city entities supported by ROCF, you know?
What if we use language that that grabs all three? So the organization is a City of Royal Oak department, comma, identified legacy organization, which that harkens back to the document you just referenced, comma, and then actually, is that it? Is there a
Commissions.
board approved, which means would we approve the affinity or relationship? Like if a new group comes forward, they would not fall into a legacy group because they're pre-identified. They're not a civic department. What could a potential future group be that we could then umbrella them into this? What do we call that?
Why don't we just name name them?
That might be easiest.
Just ink on paper.
Mhm.
Clarity, good.
And I hesitate to include the Nature Society, because what the Nature Society has done for the city is things like, buy trees or pave or make pathways or whatever. Really the money they raise goes right into Parks and Rec programs. So do we need to give money to the Nature Society to put it back into things that benefit our Parks and Rec, our parks?
Only if their membership identifies with them to give them the money, which we know mechanically goes to us, to the Parks and Rec department.
I'm wondering, I mean, I said we're struggling with this definition. Would we rather err on being a little more general here? Meaning, do we really want to be so specific in the policy, or do we want to have that flexibility? I mean, do we have to define it? Or is it up? And if we don't, then it does leave it up to more of our own interpretation, which maybe that's what we want, because I'd hate to list somebody in here and it's just harder to change at that point.
It's a good point.
I guess I'd rather err on being more general here than too specific when I think about the future, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think the organization, its efforts are aligned with the mission of ROCF, maybe with the mission, the purpose of the city and the mission of ROCF. Or aligned with the needs of the city and the mission of ROCF. Anybody? Bueller?
So are you thinking we would take that first bullet point out?
Yes, I think that's consistent with what Pete suggested.
Yeah.
Does anybody have the mission handy? Do you want me to read it?
But that might be too general, because wouldn't everything, I mean, if they weren't aligned with our mission, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was headed to. It might be too general, especially if we're going to use it to help, preserve the folks' times and dollars.
I mean, I see the spirit of what we're trying to do. I mean, I don't know that I like legacy organization. I'm not really sure. Like in my mind, I know that makes sense probably to those that have been involved for a while. But to me, kind of as a new person coming in, that I have no idea what a legacy organization is, right? But if you told me a city affiliate or a city function, that makes some sense to me. I can understand the spirit of what we're trying to say.
The language preceding this says the executive director may determine whether the third-party fundraising efforts may or may not use or benefit. So do we even need these bullet points?
It would be nice to have a guide for the executive director, I think.
Okay.
I see.
So if, I do like the idea of city department and city affiliate, or a identified affiliate, City of Royal Oak affiliate. It just seems like it at least narrows it down.
Because then what is that? Well, it's kind of up to the director and to the board at that point in time, right?
And it means that we're connecting with the City of Royal Oak.
Yeah.
Versus someone who says, hey, we want to start a charity that we want to work with Royal Oak and we want to do this. And it might not align with the city. We don't want to become a passive organization for groups to fundraise for their own causes all over the place. We want them to focus on civic functions.
Maybe affiliate's a better word.
So, and I think, including that the term identified is important because there are city affiliates who are not on our list. For example, the farmers market. The farmers market used to be one of the groups of roots, but now they are not one of what we've been calling the legacy groups. So they are a city affiliate, right? But they're not an identified city affiliate at this point.
So would we consider them to be a city affiliate, and would they fall under this allowance, the farmers market? Are you saying, Julie?
I don't think so, because they're not an identified city affiliate. So identified by the Royal Oak Civic Foundation.
If they wanted to do a fundraising campaign for improvements to it, though, how would they do that? They're still a part of the city, correct?
Right.
And they have is there a for-profit company managing it, or is there a director that's managing it?
Shar, can you help with that one?
It's overseen by the Parks and Rec Department,
Right.
and they contract with a professional management company, but we own it and they manage it, at our will.
Yeah, I would consider that to be a city affiliate, whether it's identified or not. I would think that they would fall under that.
And I will also say it's an enterprise fund. That is, it's set up to be profitable, to be self-supporting.
And I think that's why when Don was naming the groups for which the Civic Foundation would offer support, the farmers market wasn't going to be listed anymore.
Any danger to eliminating the word identified? Just say the organization is a city affiliate?
So what happens if the farmers market comes and wants to hold a fundraiser? That would be, yeah.
I would allow it.
Well, would it be for us or would it be for them? I guess that's part of some confusion here also. You know, when my first example about the animal shelter, when they want to do a fundraiser, it would likely not be to the benefit of the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, because they're focused on raising money for the animal shelter.
So they're using us as a pass-through, though, for processing and
Correct.
Which is
Would
fine.
Would they need us though? Would they need us to do that, or wouldn't they just do that for themselves?
Well, we are able to offer the 501c3 status. So if there are bigger donors who can only give to 501c3s, then, you know, that's where we would come in.
So I would say if there was a larger donor that was interested in giving money to the farmers market and they wanted to use us as a pass-through, I would be okay with that. If we were trying to, I mean, if we were supportive of their, you know, what they were trying to accomplish.
But here we're just talking about events. And if the animal shelters group, for example, wanted to do a fur ball, which they did, you know, a fundraising event with auctions and, you know, raffles and, you know, so on and so forth, they don't need us. Their name is more, this is to Tom's point about the hospital. It's far more powerful to have a fundraiser for the children's cancer wing than it is for Beaumont Hospital. So the animal shelter committee wouldn't need us.
But conversely, the cancer group only fundraises through us. So we are the processor. We both determine if they'll do that fundraiser, and we are the central processing source for credit cards, all those things as well. We put those events on. So it's a little bit a different situation here. Here, I think we'd want to offer to the civic groups that they can use our 501c3 status to host a fundraiser, so they can use processing software, things like that. And we're helping with those things. Like, where would they write their checks to? They'd write it to the animal shelter versus write it to us. They write it to the animal shelter. They can't they can't get a fair market value on the benefit of their donation, where with us they can.
Yeah, like I guess maybe I'm confused. So if someone's going to use this as a pass through, I can't imagine us saying no unless if it just didn't fit our mission somehow. I also don't see in the immediate future them using us as a resource we're so small to process, and to facilitate events. I think they're probably going to do it on their own. Maybe I'm just rethinking the purpose of this. I don't know.
In our future, we would likely have some sort of customer relationship management database that helps to process gifts, do online registration, things like that, so that we're able to generate a lot of this text, any text pieces, all automatically.
Okay.
So this is third party. What we're discussing now is third party as someone coming to us wants to do a benefit for ROCF or an affiliate. For groups that are hosting their own event, I think we need another process or policy. This doesn't cover that.
So Tom, can you give us an example of it? So a third party wanting to come. So this would be kind of like a fundraising company that does fundraising, right?
So picture
does it an event organizer.
Could be any of that. Could be Tim Hortons says, hey, we want to do $1 of every cup of coffee from this date to this date benefits the animal shelter. But we can only give we as a corporation only give to 501c3s. So we would have a relationship then with Tim Hortons to say, okay, do your promotion. We'll help promote it because it benefits the city of Royal Oak. You're in Royal Oak. We'll have the the animal shelter promoted as well. But you cut your check to us, we process it, and it goes in. That would be a classic third-party event where someone is raising money, not a lot of expenses, and they're giving us the majority of their proceeds.
Okay. And in that example, the majority of the proceeds are only in name given to us because they will be passed through to the animal shelter.
Correct. But according to our policy here, we're taking a 5% processing fee, correct? Yeah, it's right here. Royal Oak Civic Foundation will capture 5% processing fee of 5% to account for administration, merchant, and other fees. So the more complex example, a group like Arts Beats and Eats comes in and they want to put on a major festival. They'll have a contract with the city of Royal Oak for that. They're fundraising off of us. They've got some fundraising. It's a complex situation, but a group like that wants to bring an event into Royal Oak and benefit the city. They're doing it to benefit themselves. It's typically enterprise that the organizer is making some profit on as well. So they will need, in a more complex agreement, to probably work with either a city for a contract, or they would need to have a relationship with us, and we would become a pass-through to city entities for where that money is coming in. There's 100 scenarios we can kind of think through. I think it's important for us to position ourselves as kind of we are the place where money comes in the door for the whole city, and any asset that we can help to make that easier for the groups to access.
So the statement here, the statement here, basically this bullet list is saying, here's who we will allow to fundraise on our behalf. Wouldn't we always allow the legacy group to fundraise on our behalf? Although I don't think they would. I mean, the Friends of the Library isn't going to fundraise in the name of the Royal Oak Civic Foundation. We may be a tool for them in the background, but they're not going to fundraise in our name.
Correct.
This is really an example of, as Tom was saying, Artsbeats needs to be a perfect example. If they were going to give the money to us and then we were going to distribute it to the animal shelter and other places. So,
or they'll give it to us for our own purposes, and we may,
Right.
we can choose where we spend it, which I think is what we want to accomplish.
Part of our initial conversations, and we'll have to confirm this, is this where we're headed as we put more thought to this, is are we a fundraising resource for other Royal Oak Civic organizations that were part of Roots? That was the original impetus, I think, for what we were going to do, but is it still part of our of what we're going to be?
Yes, a question to be answered, because they do need resources,
Mm-hmm.
but do we have the capacity, or at what point how would we develop that capacity?
Right. I think a future operational conversation for us is, all right, at what point do we invest in a CRM so that and auto processing software, so you can make a gift online, spits you the automatic receipt. We're able to use it to help that group communicate with their constituents going forward. So it's all automated. We're able to also use that as a way to start engaging donors over time as well too,
Yeah.
to support either a specific initiative that they've self-identified for, or other civic fundraising campaigns in the future. Planned gifts, major gifts, things like that. So I wonder if we should put on our future discussion, what are our services going to be to the legacy Roots groups, and when do we activate them? And maybe it's done over time. Data management, I think, is probably the most important piece of it, because it starts with that as a core function. And for us to be able to dump in information, right now, groups are probably either using disparate databases or Excel. A lot of groups just use Excel, and we can help them with, we do not want to become a database management company, but we want to give them access to be able to put their files someplace, I think.
So I'm inclined to strike in this, to move on our discussion, strike that first line of that bullet list. Because Roots organizations are not going to raise funds on our behalf, and we can't really and shouldn't really be forbidding their activities. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if you have a true, now I understand this better, a true third-party organizer that wants to come in and use us as a pass-through, as long as it aligns with our mission, we may be willing to do it, regardless of whether it's a city affiliate or not.
I move we strike that first line.
Agreed.
Done.
I'm good. It took us a while to get there, but I'm good with that.
Well, but good content.
Good discussion.
All right, any other suggestions? This is a complex document. I wonder if we want to spend some more time just kind of reviewing it offline and bring it back to our next meeting.
I wouldn't mind doing that. I'd like to have a little more time to think about how we might have different scenarios and how they would affect what's in here and how this would affect them.
Right. I think we also will need to define some other processes that connect to this too. Like if we are going to put on our own event for the city of Royal Oak, those are considered first party events. We wholly own it. We might want to put the affiliates into a second party group where they connect to us and can use us as resources to organize and save money and have a lower cost to raise a dollar. Third party would be community, as this one outlines. Community organizers coming forward that are doing promotions or benefits. We'd be working with retailers, other event promoters, things like that. So we could, to be helpful to our future, create some more definitions. So should we move to just kind of leave this on the table then, or?
Move it to the next month's agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops. All right, let's plan to do that. All right, next up, funding process for entities, engagement needs, entity interviews with needs assessment. On our markets at Go, let's discuss the processes for establishing our funding process.
So did you have any processes in place during the roots time, Tom and Alex?
I'm trying to think what we did. We did all the groups sat at the table and we had them articulate, go back to their organizations and come back with a fantasy list of projects that would be within certain dollar ranges. So we invited that discussion, had them come back and present. And then when we had money that we had gained from a promotion, we voted on which one we wanted to do in which order. And I think we handled 3 of them. So because the members were at the table, we had the direct dialogue. We will need to create that initial communication with those groups. And it could be something that should be an easy engagement. Well, after we've announced ourselves, we decide our first grant funding process will be, we'll establish a who, what, when, where, why. Twice a year, we'll announce how much we've got, open an application process that's written, and then we can have a review process from there.
So it strikes me that there are 2 concepts in this one item. One is, as Tom has described, how we give away money. But the other is needs assessment. Do we do that needs assessment? Shouldn't we be doing that needs assessment now? And that kind of ties into the parking lot item of capturing current fundraising happenings in Royal Oak. That is comparing needs with matching with availability of resources.
I like the idea as a next point of promotion for us to pop our heads up for the community to see. Our first one is announcing that we exist and that we have a fundraising campaign that's active, that's benefiting a relevant community need, hunger. Do we pop up in next quarter and say, all right, here we are again, and we've raised some money, and community, we'd like for you to vote on some of these needs, and do we communicate with the groups and just put together a catalog? Here, what are you raising money for? And if we promote it in the community and got some additional input from the community on what would you like to fund and would you like to make a contribution or vote with your dollars?
Because anyone can be a philanthropist.
Bingo.
So kind of crowdsource it rather than working from a corporate strategic playbook.
Mm-hmm. So maybe we allow the groups to raise money via crowdsourcing, and then we provide match dollars from what the Robertson brothers have given us for the top 3, or a special additional grant of X number of dollars to the top fundraiser. helps them get their project immediately. There's different ways we can look at it, but thoughts on how we use our funding processes to gain more community attention.
What do others think? I've weighed in here. Alex, Pete?
Alex, do you have any thought? So I'm kind of curious to see your perspective. I don't know if you have any perspective from a fundraising aspect.
Yeah.
It looks like you have some additional help with you too to weigh in.
I do. She's very, very interested. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of doing the crowdsourcing. I mean, you talk about like the wisdom of crowds. There's a fun, if you ever want some interesting listening. Planet Money on NPR talks about the wisdom of crowds, where they can accurately guess like the weight of a pig at like the state fair. Anyways, so I mean, I can use that as a way to say like, I think we could probably do both. I think the cataloging the current fundraising almost feels like it's something that we should do. It would be a part of a needs assessment, but maybe like the first step in a needs assessment. Because I see part of our role is like helping close the gap for some of the other organizations, right? Does that make sense? Or like, you know, secure matching dollars or like that kind of thing. But I do like the idea of the, you know, vote with your dollars, kind of, you know, march with your dollars kind of thing. So that's where my head's at. I don't know if it's too soon to start talking about like when we'll start giving out money. But I guess they, you know, fundraising and the giving go hand in hand. So those are my thoughts. Not fully formed. Sorry, I'm a little rambly.
It just seems to me that I mean, even, you know, other foundations which do competitive grant making still have at least, you know, categories or some statements of you know, narrowing of the categories that they might be willing to support. And maybe that's as broad as, you know, we are here right now, you know, 3 priorities that are, you know, I'm making this up: hunger, economic development, and homeless or animal welfare. But at least to have kind of that much of a structure in guidelines.
Like a focus, really.
Yeah.
I agree, because I think otherwise it's just so abstract. It's, you know, it can be anything. But if you, I don't know.
And if we want people to give to us, I mean, if we want people to, you know, just write us checks because we exist,
Right.
we need to tell them what they're giving for, not just, you know, competitive grant making, but, you know, help us alleviate illiteracy in Royal Oak.
Because we may be receiving money from other, I mean, that's the whole purpose. We're asking money from other foundations, and those foundations have a very specific mission, oftentimes, that the donor has left money toward. You know, whether it's education or something. So is the question really, how do we position ourselves, like from almost like a marketing perspective and a communication perspective?
Well, that's always where I come from.
The voting with your dollars thing does remind me of the combined federal campaign, where there's a bunch of different groups that you can basically donate to, and then there's the, you know, like the big winners. Tom, I don't know if that was what sparked the idea on your end, but that's what it's making me think of. I mean, it's effective, you know, at engagement and raising the profile from a marketing perspective of the different causes. I do agree, though. I think it'd be helpful if we set parameters around what those goals are or what topics are. as opposed to kind of like a fill in the blank.
And because we are, our mission's pretty broad, really. I mean, it's specific to the city of Royal Oak proper, if you will. But can we change the focus each year or so? I mean, could we have a focus for this year and based on that focus, reach out to potential donors, foundations, organizations, and have the ability to talk to them to say, this is our mission, but we're especially focused this year on this, and that's why we're calling you. I mean, does that make sense?
I do. I like it if we decide we're going to do either some fundraising campaigns around it specifically, or allocate unrestricted dollars that we get that are kind of come from wherever that just kind of show up. But then also having a strategic piece where we are where groups can work with us, use our resources to raise funds.
And I will say that I don't necessarily think that we need to do a deep dive strategic analysis of needs in the community. I think we as trustees could pick a topic that we like and run with it.
It's no different than what we're doing with the campaign now. I mean, the kind of the kickoff campaign where we've identified some organizations that are in need that we want to focus on based on the pandemic, and we run with it.
Yeah. I mean, we could, like what pops into my head right now is, planting stuff. I mean, we could do a year of trees and flowers, and ask people for money for that, and then grant those funds. I mean, it could go into the city's parks program, but it could go elsewhere as well. But like I say, we can arbitrarily pick something that we intellectually and from our perspective know is a need, whether it's the most pressing need or not. It still is going to be a need.
Do we want to use it as a community engagement opportunity that we come up with 10 needs and ask the community to vote? Log on here and vote. And so tell us what you want. They identify it as part of the voting process, and then it helps us to connect with them as donors.
I like that.
Yeah.
And we use it something that brands our name. It's like the Civic Foundation community check-in or something like that. Tell us what you'd like for us to, what impact you'd like for us to have. And here are 10 identified topics.
So do you do that and use the current, the proposed fundraiser that's, underway, kind of the kickoff? Do we communicate the results of that, and then as kind of a follow-up to say, here's what we've done so far and essentially what's next? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a way to communicate that and kind of create that momentum.
Yeah, smart. I like it.
I like that. That's great. That's solid.
Okay.
So how do we want to move this agenda item forward? Then is my question. Do we want to create a specific recommendation on next steps? Do we want a subcommittee to look at this? I'd hate to put things in subcommittee that it just goes in. It's nice that we're all working on this, but I want to make sure we're giving this life versus.
We're a pretty small group. A subcommittee would be one of us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Ta-da!
So, okay, how about this? How about we start with our own internal survey and ask the city commissioners to also contribute ideas for topics or themes?
I like it. So we would send an e-communication email to everybody.
Yep.
And then we would all send into a central point. There is some fun software, and I think maybe we looked at, it's called Mentimeter. And I'll encourage you to log online, and it's something you can use on your smartphone. We can purchase an account, and it's for community surveys of large groups. And it's M as in Mary, E, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, I, M as in Mary, ETER.com.
Tom, I've used it before. It's really effective.
Yeah, and it's super fun and graphic as well too. So you can see how your vote impacts others and or the overall vote too. And it's you use bar charts, pie charts as well. And then you launch it to people on their smartphones. You tell them log into menti.com and put in this code. And then we would say it's the Royal Oak Civic Foundation check-in. And please help us figure out what we should fund in the next year. And then people just vote. And then it just keeps the tabulation of that.
So how do you want to come up with the 10 items or so that people will vote on? You know, I have this written down: internal survey, first ask city commissioners what they think.
I think city commissioners, what about the whole city of Royal Oak staff? What if we use it as an introduction to them to say, hey, we're a new entity. You work in the city as well. We're asking for input from all elements of the city, of city employees. Tell us what you think. And we use it as an introduction and education opportunity to what we are. So we've got a core group that understands us, that's connected to the city first. And we can make sure they have some specific talking points as part of our communication, like here's what we do, here's what and here's how we work.
I like that because, we're a new organization. It helps the city staff see what we're all about and that we're here to help. We're here to help them. We're here to be a resource to them and to the community. And they, I'm sure, come into contact with needs that are difficult to address from a resource standpoint every day. And so maybe it's the staff, including the commissioners.
And so are we mainly focusing on what we used to call the legacy groups staff?
No.
Or are we asking staff to just think of something in Royal Oak that is a need that they think, should be funded?
Do you have a large number of your staff that live in Royal Oak? Do you have any idea on a percentage, or just kind of curious?
You know what, I could find out. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but for the greenhouse gas emissions inventory, I ran an employee commute survey and asked those questions.
Well, they probably live in the area, if it's not Royal Oak proper. So my point is they could probably identify needs relatively easy.
There's a decent number of employees who work for who live in Royal Oak.
But I'm going to push back a little bit on employee involvement, only because they will focus on the things that they know and see, and there are things that city employees don't touch on. I'll say, pre-K, let's talk, use as an example, pre-K education or homelessness. I don't know that employees see that, and I think their responses might skew towards the things that they're involved with. And maybe that's okay. Maybe we want that, but let's acknowledge that would be the case.
Yeah, I think there's that risk. See, I guess what I was kind of hoping for maybe not, but police officers, others they are exposed to the homeless issue. Code enforcement, they're exposed to different issues. I don't know. You could do it to see that there's a practicality to the employees, right? I love the idea of residents, but now it's reaching them and getting them to fill out a questionnaire. Employees, not that that's that much easier, but you might have more luck. But I'm open to it.
Is it pie in the sky to have it as both, that we ask the employees to help us narrow it to 10, and then we push the group of 10 out to the entire community? So we've done a multi-layered approach to first inform and educate the city employees, get their perspective, give them some prompting too. You know, we're looking, are these problems you're seeing that are in the city? They can be, and they can be anything from things that are, you know, societal. They could be beautification projects. You know, it's runs the gamut. What would you like to see us focus on? We're gonna tally your list and take it to the community and ask them to vote, and then we're gonna engage the community to fundraise over the next year.
Actually, at that time, you were going to say that we could poll or survey the residents and the employees.
I'm thinking we survey the employees, narrow it to a top 10, then take the top 10 list out to the residents.
Back to my original thought of just having it be the city commission, and argue with people, not just because I'm a commissioner, but they are our member. Let them have own this process of defining the initial list that the public votes on.
And they represent the community.
Right. And it's easier. And they're likely to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's a practicality to it.
I do like that. I do like the idea of, saving the community component either as a fundraising component or another engagement part later on. But especially as we're kind of getting our feet in this part of our work, if it does simplify the, 2 application.
You guys would have more of an expertise in this than I do, but do you think when you survey them, do you have to give them like a top 10? I mean, do we, instead of leaving it wide open, do we have to give them a list of ideas to prioritize? I mean, you might be able to have one write-in, other 2 write-ins, but I am concerned. I'm just wondering if you have to narrow it a little bit.
Well, you mean with the commissioners?
Yeah.
I mean, there are only 7 of us. I would leave it open.
Leave it open.
For that group. Okay. And we can consolidate. I mean, we'll spot duplicates. If someone says sustainability, if someone says climate change, well, those are, going to be part and parcel of the same thing.
Okay.
So I need to go off on a bit of a tangent here because while we were talking, I remembered that we requested from the City Commission back in January of last year some direction about this organization. And I found the planning sheet from our February meeting. And it says the foundation should, 1, raise funds for municipal departments, programs, and facilities. So that kind of narrows the scope. 2, it should seek funds for programs that aren't or can't be sufficiently and appropriately funded through taxes. Number 3, focus on library, animal shelter, public art and parks, and recreation, for example, tree plantings. So I wonder how stringent is this direction from the commission? Were we asking them to give us specific direction about how to work and only work the way that they determined here? Because in that case, it's not really up to us to choose homelessness or hunger because those don't actually fit into the items that the commission suggested.
Might this be a good idea or a topic for the commission's yearly meeting concerning policy, Shar?
The strategy, yeah. Yeah, exactly, Mark. So this is, we asked them this question last year at that same meeting. So now that we have a better footing and we're starting to understand how, expanding that view could be super helpful to the community, perhaps we can, make an adjustment in some way.
I still like the idea of, asking the commissioners to submit categories because it quantifies it in a way. Otherwise, there are 7 of us sitting around the table and each of us has some idea on it and we wind up with a resolution that incorporates all of our ideas. I think we can acknowledge what they said to us a year ago and say, look, here's what we'd like to do. You know, give us a list based on what's happened in the last year and what you said a year ago. You know, what should be our giving subjects for the coming year?
So yeah, I like that. And my first thought was, thank you for that reminder, Julie, because my first thought was, well, they've already given us the direction.
Yeah.
And now I would say that we have the direction, and we could use that same list for this upcoming year, except this has been just a remarkable year. And with that priority, that list may have changed in their mind if they were to. So I think what we could do, I mean, along the lines of what Shar is saying, is we could say, hey, look, you know, we're putting together a plan. These are the marching orders. This is the prioritization you gave us last year. Considering that the world has changed, would you still agree with this, or do you have different priorities? And give them an opportunity to adjust, and then we have some input. What if we do something like that?
I'm sorry, can I jump in here? The House has passed a bill of impeachment.
Wow, yeah.
Sorry, I've got the TV on.
Yep.
So I have a question. Is the Royal Oak Civic Foundation in a position to take marching orders from the commission?
I think it's input. It's I don't know if it's marching orders as much as it's input.
I think I like that better, Pete, because if indeed we're held to, you know, this direction for the organization that they gave us last January, that would make it very difficult for us to be flexible during the year like 2020 happened to be, right? It was a strange year. And for our kickoff, we as a group decided that we weren't going to have our kickoff fund the animal shelter or the library. We decided that our kickoff really needed to fund food insecurity, because that's the big need that we have in the city.
The commission didn't vote on those guidelines. I mean, they were part of, you know, a 20-minute discussion, and when people were unprepared for the discussion really in the first place. So I personally, and we have two new commissioners.
That's a good point.
So I think we're now going back to them and saying, okay, this is what you said a year ago. This is what's happened in the world ever since then. Now, you know, tell us more.
And I think okay. So I like the words. You know, tell us where you see the greatest need. You know, that's not direction. It's not marching orders. It's input, and it's where do you see the greatest need? You're representing the community. You're out there. You're dealing with the city. It's budget. You have the residents coming to you during city councils in the public hearing. Where do you see the greatest need? Any update from last year? Because it's been a year like no other.
And I like that phrasing.
Me too, very much.
Well, what's our opportunity to have this this communication then? Is this something that we send for an informal conversation as part of the prep that they're having? Is it part of a commission meeting? Shar, give us some advice on how we communicate this to talk about, you gave us this direction. We have subsequently also supported this community need that's been identified, and how we got that need for food insecurity that came from, I think, city administrators, and then and the update piece. Where does that happen, and how does that happen?
I continue to want quantitative, a quantitative decision, not a general discussion where all of us get our ideas on the list. And that could be at the strategic planning session. And I'm going to need to run that by the city manager, because he's got a lot that he needs to cram into that as well. But even if we did it there, I would want some sort of voting. I mean, you know, hey, everybody come up with a list and then vote. Or maybe they come up with a list at that meeting and digitally afterwards they vote. But I really want the commissioners to, you know, I want to see their priorities, our priorities.
And Shar, could you assist then with that, kind of facilitating that? Because you're part of that process. Yeah.
When is that meeting? When do they have that?
February?
Yeah, January 30th.
Oh, so it's quick. Okay.
Yeah, the last Saturday. Yep.
So let's say that I'll run that by the city manager and see if he can accommodate a block of, a 15-minute discussion on that. If not, then I would be inclined to go to the email voting quantitative approach. Tell us where you see the greatest needs in our community. Just give us a list of ideas and we will distill them into a list that the public can vote on.
Okay, so for next steps, when you check with the city manager, if that's a yes, then do you need a document prepared from us that you can have them all react to? That's
Yeah.
like, here it is, here's what you said, here's what we've done, here's where we're going, give us your input.
Yeah, we can tell them, because we haven't told them yet what our mission statement is, what our vision is, what our values are. So we have an opportunity to introduce that to them.
Okay. So do we want to spend the remainder of today's meeting kind of crafting that so we can use it either in your meeting or we can use it with an email component if that becomes the preferred method of communication? Or is this something we want to ask, Julie, can we ask for your help with if we give you some bullets to craft that communication?
Yeah. Are we in a position today to work on it together?
We have 17 minutes left in today's meeting. We are at the end of our agenda. How about if we generate 10 bullets that kind of walk through those 3 segments, maybe three apiece? So first bullet is Royal Oak Civic Foundation is starting its promotion and finalizing its standing for a piece of history. We'll soon be announcing our existence and current fundraising campaigns. You gave us this direction as we were starting to form last year, and then you can reiterate what's in your notes. That's section 1. The second section is in the interim, to Pete's point about how the world has changed, we have announced a fundraising campaign to help in the community with food security, with direction from wherever that came from. I think Judy Davids gave us some insight as well too. And we'll be launching this shortly. Section 3 of this is, has this changed from the original direction? What's new? What are the important city functions that you would like assistance with that we can raise funds for over the next year?
Where do you, I think we like the words, where do you see the greatest need in the community?
Right. And we will take this campaign as part of our introduction to the community for a community engagement opportunity, whether it's voting, crowd-rise fundraising, things like that. Does that all make sense? Does that capture everything that everyone has offered as part of this discussion into a communication that can either be used for a live session or email communication, both?
I think so. And then I think for the board communication, the 4th part of that is just Q Shar.
Is just, I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. Q Shar.
Oh, right.
That's where you
Enter stage left.
enter stage left.
Yeah, you're speaking my language there.
Okay, so Shar, how about we just keep in touch? You let me know what Paul says and we can figure out how to move forward.
I'm sending him an email as we speak.
Great.
And if this is done via the email, the second of our choices, maybe we include a preliminary link of unless we release it sooner, the video. So
Yeah.
they've got kind of the primer on that. All right, so this turned into more of a working session than a motion. I don't know that we need a motion to do that and a second to do that. Um, does that feel like we have motion and direction on this need?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Well, we are at the end of our meeting for today with 14 minutes to spare. So good for us. Should we talk about our agenda for our next meeting and what that should include? I assume we will keep all sections of our current agenda 1 through 7 are appropriate to repeat, as are 8 and 9. 10 will repeat because I think we'll have some more of an update from Kitch, correct, Julie?
Yes.
Video status report. Do you want to update that to video status / PR campaign launch? And we can revisit the document Sharp put together as what we'll do in what order now that we're at this time frame. Does that sound good?
Yep.
And then for new business, actually this goes to old business, third-party fundraising policy discussion. That'll stay number 12, but it will launch up to the unfinished business section. Funding process, why don't we split that topic, because we will have some report back from Shar at that time, whether it was A or B, the live presentation or the email discussion. And then is there anything from the parking lot we want to move up?
Hey, quick question. Is the first item the MOU, isn't that item 10?
Yes, that'll be combined.
Okay, so we can pull it out of the parking lot.
We also have big picture visioning for our February meeting,
Oh, there we go. Let's pull that up too into new business.
as well as additional policies to consider, including an investment policy. Though I would suggest we push that back since it's following financial setup completion.
Yeah, let's move that. Let's change that in parking lot from to maybe the March or March meeting.
Yep.
And then that's it. Any other?
Can someone remind me when we set our annual meeting for? I'm wondering about the overall nominations process where I want to make sure that I get started when we got to get started.
Yes, November will be the annual meeting. And we forecast August to begin the board candidate nominating process.
Perfect. Thank you. So I guess since it's the beginning of the year, if you start meeting people virtually, that might be awesome. Do grab their name so we can start building out our list. That's my request related to that. Sorry, I know we're building the agenda, but parking lot, August item.
Would it be helpful if we put those into the parking lot as reminders that?
Good idea. I'll do that.
Please.
Okay, great. All right, anything else for the good of the order?
Real quick, I just want to thank Mark and Julie for their continued support and incredible work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm just glad that after 20 years of being here, waiting for this, it's happening.
That's good.
Second, Pete's comments.
Thank you.
Let's put it into the minutes. Special appreciation
The
to
work is
the team for their support.
Yes, the work is noticed and appreciated.
Thank you all.
All right. Well, thank you all for your participation and forward motion in today's meeting. We can entertain our next meeting is, here's my calendar, February
10th.
February 10, yep. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, we'll go roll call vote. I'll start at the bottom. Alex,
Aye.
Peter,
I guess we're doing aye, so I'll say aye.
Sean,
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Thank you all. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Bye. Happy New Year.
Good
Talk to
seeing
you
you all.
soon.
Happy New Year. Say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.